So a few of you might remember that Nancy Pelosi a couple of weeks back had talked about how the Democrats are committed to undoing Donald Trump's tax cuts for the wealthy. The tax cuts for the wealthy that cost American taxpayers $2 trillion, right? $2 trillion in cuts and also subsidies, right? Well, according to The Hill, they are no longer going to be cutting these taxes back if Joe Biden gets elected. Now, guys, they literally have said it. Like, it sounds crazy. Okay, so, according to The Hill, right? Which, by the way, love The Hill. One of the few media outlets that actually does real news. Senate Democrats have suggested that they could move quickly on the issue, but now they say they are likely to delay the standalone tax legislation if Democratic nominee Joe Biden is elected as president and their party controls the House and the Senate. Instead of rolling back the tax cuts, the priority will be spending to create jobs and raise wages, investments in green technology and infrastructure, and a national plan to contain the coronavirus pandemic. So in other words, hey, remember how we said we were for the people and for the workers? Remember how we said that we were going to raise taxes? Yeah, that's a load of shit. It's a load of fucking bullshit. They're not going to do anything. So guys, they literally said if they control the Senate and the White House, they won't raise taxes. That should show you that them saying, oh, we're going to raise taxes or we're going to do this and that, it's all partisanship, guys. It's all about control. That's all it is. Like, I have news for you. Anyone who thinks, oh, the Democrats are much more moral than the Republicans, the Democrats don't give a shit about you, okay? The Democrats are not your fucking friends. They're not. They're not friends of the worker. They're not friends of the people. They're not friends of minorities. And I say this coming from the black community. They are not your friends. The Democratic Party, the neoliberals, are not your friends. Now, I want to make a distinction real quick between Democrats and progressives. And for those of you who listen to this channel or those of you who consider yourself progressive, you already know this. But for the new listeners, progressives, people who actually want renewable technology, who want a raised minimum wage to at least $15. It really should be $22 because the minimum wage has not been raised since the 50s, adjusted for inflation. But yeah, so we want a minimum wage, people who want the Green New Deal, people who want Medicare for all. Those are progressives. Democrats are not progressive. Neoliberal Democrats are not progressive. They're basically modern Republicans. They're like, hey, if we can just, use the right politically correct rhetoric and tune down the racism and, just not be fascist. Hey, we represent you guys. No, they do not. No, they don't. They do not represent you. They represent the 1%, the rich, wealthy, just like their Republican counterparts. Isn't it funny how whenever there's a bill about something like guns rights or some cultural issue, they can't agree, but as soon as it's like, oh, we're going to do a tax cut, or oh, we're going to go to war, or all of a sudden everybody can agree. You know why? Because they're the same party. They literally have the same ideology. It's just that one group panders to the culture war and the other group is anti-culture war. But when it actually comes down to most policies that actually affect the average American, like economics or war, foreign policy, they agree because they're the same. Guys, if you think that Joe Biden is going to be a dramatically different president as far as policy from Donald Trump, I got news for you, bro. I got news for you, bro. Nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change in this country as long as we have the same neoliberal establishment. Like, and then people are like, oh, Joe Biden will be the most progressive president in history. Oh, Joe Biden. Oh, we love Joe Biden. Joe Biden is blazing trails. Joe Biden is nothing but a worse version of Obama with dementia. I'm sorry. That's what Joe Biden is. He's a worse version of Obama with dementia. Because he's not as politically savvy as Obama. He's well liked, I'll give him that, but he's not as well liked as Obama. And his policies are like most neoliberal policies ever. Like, hey, let's be for good things and be against bad things. And let's say we'll do some good things because I like good things and they like bad things, so vote for me. Right? Or, I represent black people because, if you ain't black, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black because I represent black people and they don't vote for me. Where's the substance? Where's the policy? Look, guys, these rich billionaires, I was watching Kyle Kalinske the other day, and he was saying how rich billionaires had gotten over $50 trillion from the rest of the country. The top 1% has gotten over $50 trillion from the rest of the country. That's crazy. That is crazy. All this money they're making, and you keep cutting taxes. And the Democrats, they're not going to raise taxes. They're not. They're not going to do it. They might raise it by 1, 2, 3%, maybe, if we're lucky. If they actually want, it doesn't do anything. It's effectively nothing. Okay? They're not going to raise taxes. They're not going to do it. And I think it's time for us to stop sitting around twiddling our thumbs, thinking, ooh, maybe things will be different this time. Things will not be different this time. Things will continue to get worse. Rich will continue to get richer. Poor will continue to get poorer. The billionaires and the elite will continue to pay the government off so that they can continue to burn fossil fuels and destroy this planet. The planet that we have to live on. And by the way, those of us who are not rich are going to be the first ones to be affected by this. First, it's going to be people in, they call it developing countries now. They used to call them third world countries. I had a basketball coach. He said, where do you think the second world is? Because I'm from Philly. I'm from the hood. He said, where do you think the second world is? The second world is here. So right after the first world, the third world is affected, which is, developing countries, countries that don't have as much infrastructure and aren't as industrialized as us. They're going to be hit the hardest. Then guess what's going to be next? It's going to be us. The poor. The non-elite. Those who don't have money. Those who are working 40-hour a week plus work weeks. Those of us who are working 2 or 3 jobs to support our families. It's going to affect us. They don't care. They just want more money. Guys, the only way to keep these rich, wealthy people in check is to hit their pockets. Raise taxes. Raise taxes. That is the only way to keep control on corruption. And the Democrats are not going to raise taxes. They said it. If we win, we're not going to do shit. That's what they basically said. We're not going to do jack shit. You know why? Because they don't represent you. They don't represent you. How many times do I have to say it before people understand? These people do not represent us. They do not care about us. Nothing will get better underneath them. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, they're all cut from the same political cloth, okay? They all do politics, like they did in the 1990s. Like, every president from Reagan on after, with the exception of George H. Bush, because he actually did raise taxes, every president after that has pretty much either lowered taxes or done a minimal raise on taxes. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And people always say, hit me with the argument, why should I have to pay more just because I make more? I have to pay a bigger share. Hello? We live in a Western world. We have a progressive tax code, okay? People are supposed to pay a higher percentage when they make more money. At least that's how it's supposed to be. Right? But it's not. You know why? Because corruption. That's why. I could, today it is a little bit more of a rant video. Like, I could easily just pull out statistics and say, if you do this 80% tax code, this, no, I'm not even doing it. Look, I'm just going to speak plainly, all right? The country will continue to deteriorate if we do not tax the wealthy and we do not stop giving subsidies out to oil companies, if we do not stop doing things like payroll tax cuts that Donald Trump did, which is to undercut Social Security so that poor people can't even retire. Most people in this country are going to have to work in some form or fashion until they die. That should not be. That does not have to be. We have enough money and resources for everyone to live a good quality of life. Now, does this mean there'll be no poor people? No, absolutely not. There'll still be poor people. But we could raise everyone's standard of living. We could lower crime. We could alleviate poverty. We could end homelessness. They won't do it. You know why? So that billionaires can get more billions. So that multimillionaires can keep getting tax cuts. And look, I'm not against wealthy people. Like, a lot of people will say, like, oh, billionaires shouldn't exist and stuff. No, I'm not going to go. I don't go that far, okay? And, some people criticize me for not being left enough on that. But, look, if you're making $3 million, right? $2 or $3 million, that is totally fine. Everything above $3 million should be taxed at a higher tax rate, okay? It should be. At one point in this country, the law was if you make more than $2.3 million, you are taxed at a 90% tax rate, right? Now, by the way, that does not mean that you pay 90% in taxes. That means that the tax rate is 90%, but the effective tax rate was around 45 to 50% because of exemptions and things like that. So that was the law of this land. And that's when our country experienced a boom. Right after, that, also raising minimum wage, worker unions, in, World War II. And in the 50s, things were booming, guys. And that was when the rich and wealthy, were paying the most taxes, Because FDR, he looked at things and said, hey, we got to redistribute the wealth because, we're on the brink of communism. At one point, the United States was on the brink of communism. And he said, all right, we got to redistribute the wealth. We got to change the system. The system's corrupt. Fixed it. Guys, we need to do that again now in 2020. We cannot wait. Look, I say this in every single video. Call your local senators. Call your local electorate people. Anybody on the federal level. Just call them. Even if you got to call your mayor and your local senators and stuff to get them to call the federal. Well, do whatever you have to do. Tell these people, hey, we want a tax cut we don't want tax cuts for the rich. We don't want tax cuts for the rich. We want taxes to be raised for the rich, and we want them to be accountable for what they do as far as the environment and as far as the things in the rest of this country. I'm ranting a little bit. I'm jumping from topic to topic, but these things need to be said. Now, if you look at the statement again, from the Congress, they said their priority with spending is to create jobs, raise wages, and invest in green technology and infrastructure. This is the same shit that they've been saying since the 1990s. They have not done anything. Look, you know what? I was watching, it's like they haven't done anything. Wages have stayed stagnant. We've created new jobs, but the jobs we created have been lost because of the pandemic. Our green technology program and infrastructure is a joke. Our infrastructure is a D+, I believe. And they're saying they're going to fund all these things, right? And we're going to focus on these. How are you going to focus on these things if you're not going to tax people? I just want to know, where's the revenue going to come from? You're not going to tax the rich. Where's the revenue going to come from? You know what? It's not going to come. You only have two options. You can tax the rich or you can tax the poor. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not in a position where I can afford to see my taxes go up. Most of us are not. This is ridiculous. It goes to show you that it's all about power and control. That's it. Power and control, nothing else. And what I don't understand is, why the fuck would you want to control something if you're not going to use it to do anything? Like, that's like a parent who's like, you can't do this. Why? Because I said so, right? Oh, why not? Because I said so, but they won't give you an actual reason. It's like, instead of being like, well, you can't do this because I say this, that, and the third. You know how we would all get super annoyed at our parents? Like, because they wouldn't give us an explanation. They just say, I'm the parent, I have the power, I say so. Well, I am sick and tired of the government telling me because I said so. I don't know about you guys. I am sick of it. I am sick of it. And yeah, usually I like to have videos more formatted. I like to keep them a little shorter and sweet. But I just had to go on this rant because Joe Biden and the neocons, Nancy Pelosi, the entire establishment is just showing us that no matter what, no matter how many times we kick and yell and scream and cry out in pain and anguish because the system has failed and America is a failed state, they don't care. They don't care. They just want to go back to normalcy, which is doing nothing. And you know what? The United States is the only country in the developed world where doing absolutely nothing, absolutely positively nothing, is business as usual.